Whew. Whoa, excuse me. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Lunch and Debates. I'm your fellow host Dibo, back again after a little bit of a hiatus. Sorry about that. That was not scheduled. Um, Quick explanation due to school picking up for the semester, along with me having my new job as well. Time management has been a little off for me, so I have to be very mindful of that moving forward. And yeah, that's the whole situation going on in my life right now. Obviously, I want to keep this podcast and the growth of our platform as one of my main priorities because I believe that there is still a lot of stuff that we haven't reached yet, and we need to reach in the near future, and especially long term as well. So yeah, we're still gonna keep this moving, and for me, most importantly, I think, well, yeah, I think again, just my time management has to be better on my behalf. I know life's hard. I know it's a lot difficult, but with this podcast, man, the goal has to be to producing content every week or nearly every week. And it's a one man show as of right now. A lot of people are jam packed with their schedules right now, but hey, it could be a lot worse. And to me, I think, producing this and making reels on the side is still very doable with my job now and with school obviously working through that as well. But yeah, man, that's a little bit of my background recently. Hopefully everyone's having a good day so far. If you're listening to this, make sure to like this video, drop a comment down below in the comment section on YouTube so we can hear your thoughts, and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. And also, when you have the time, right after you're done with listening to this, please go follow our TikTok and IG platforms, both with the handle at Lunch and Debates. And yeah, man, all that stuff sounds good to me. So, quick rundown for today's episode, just a recap of all the major events that have happened in the NFL this week. It's been a jam-packed, news-filled week, if I might add, man. A lot of huge stuff happening, especially with the Jets, which we'll talk about first with this podcast. When it comes to NBA content, I got locked in with that as well. Man, we're only a couple weeks away, 2 weeks exactly to be more specific. So, hey, once that winds down, we're gonna get predictions from me, award predictions, team predictions, stuff like that, standing predictions. So, hey, if I have the time, which I should make some time to record, that's the week when I want to do it. Then yeah, we're gonna get NBA content back up again. But we're still gonna be on the NFL and keep covering that. So yeah, enough of that rambling sesh. So with the current agenda, we are going to discuss the firing of Jets former Jets head coach Robert Salah and what the Jets can do moving forward. Can they save their season? Next up, we have the Patriots starting Drake Maye as their new quarterback versus Houston Texans this Sunday. And for the last segment, we are going to talk about early season risers and fallers. We gotta talk about that, man, because hey, we're more than a month into the season, man. There's been teams that have emerged, teams that were projected to not be good this year and are doing phenomenal, and other teams that had a high ceiling. We thought were gonna be Super Bowl contenders even, and so far that has not shaping up like that. So for that segment, I want to talk about Other teams whom I haven't discussed yet, so you won't hear the Browns really. I've already talked about them, like the Bengals too. I talked about them already. So I want to give some more teams some love and more critique as well for this episode. And yeah, man, that's pretty much it for today. So with that being said, let's get into this and let's talk about the Jets firing their head coach Robert Salah. Man, wow, big shock, big news. Jets are currently 2-3 in the AFC East. They have a very big game versus the Buffalo Bills this Monday night. Could decide the division race in the AFC East. Crazy stuff. I will say this about Robert Salah. Do I think he deserved to be fired? Do I think he was the right man to be the head coach for the New York Jets? As we've seen, no, he wasn't the right man. I've always thought during his tenure was on the mediocre side when it came to head coaches around the league. They were undisciplined. One of the worst teams when it came to penalties during his time there. I'm blanking on the word, but the amount of times the Jets started off like games very slow, lethargic. I didn't think he was the right man to lead this Jets team, especially with the fully healthy Aaron Rodgers being in a win now type of mode. Now, did I expect him to get fired this early? Heck no, not at all. And for the Jets front office and Woody Johnson, their owner, if you were gonna pull the trigger this early and fire Salah just more than a month into the season, when last year, obviously, you guys went 7-10, missed the playoffs. Rodgers was hurt the entire year. Clearly, it wasn't going to work out with Salah being the current head coach. You had a perfect opportunity to wipe the slate clean and get a much better manager for this unit, to get a much better leader. Yet you didn't, and now look where we are right now. The team is in limbo. The chemistry issues, the offense still not being great under Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers himself not playing well. It's a complete mess, and it just speaks on the Jets at over this past decade, more than over this past decade, being a completely inept franchise. Not we're just scrambling to find answers, to find solutions. When firing Salah at this point, it's not going to solve all those problems. The defense wasn't the main concern with this Jets team. I know Salah, he had responsibilities over managing the offense. He decided that Zach Wilson was his guy moving forward, and that obviously didn't work out. But with that being said, the main issue with this Jets team was clearly their offense, not their defense. And for the life of me, and I know why he's still there, because he's Aaron Rodgers' boy, and we've known this, but Nathaniel Hackett, man, why is he still here? And with him now having his play calling duties being demoted, Todd Downing, which I don't like his play calling to begin with anyway, from his time with the Raiders and the Titans. He's now the current play caller with that Jets offense moving forward. But at the same time, man, we know Nathaniel Hackett, both as a main head coach and as an offensive coordinator, he can't call plays. He is not a good offensive mind at all. We've seen this during his time with the Jaguars, and he was the OC there. We've seen this especially during his time with the Broncos being the head coach, one of the worst head coaching tenures in NFL history. And now in New York, where ever since he was named the OC, 29th in points per game, 30th in total yards, with A-Rod too, again, it has been very poor, that unit. They've been playing really bad. Run game can't get going. The passing game's been mediocre. O-line still very, very poor. A-Rod's getting hit every game, and it seems like he's getting picked. He's picking up injuries every game as season progresses. You had an easy decision, which for Salah, he was gonna make the decision this week as well too. There were reports of him firing Hackett before Salah ultimately got canned. That was a decision if you were gonna change things up with this team and save the season. But no, because of Aaron Rodgers and his power over the team as it is right now, Hackett stays. And I know Rodgers reportedly did not have any say in Salah being fired, but ultimately the man is gone. And so now look at us. Look at us currently. Still a mediocre team. We're in the same boat as before. We in the previous era with Zach Wilson. And yeah, man, in a season where there is so much promise, so much hype, A-Rod's fully healthy, we still have the elite defense. We're going to see elite from Garrett Wilson, but ultimately, that has not happened. The Jets have been very mediocre, and if this move doesn't play out properly with Jeff Ulbrich being the interim head coach, we are in trouble in New York. We are in trouble with the Jets, man, and shoot, if this fails, if this does not work out, if they come in on Monday night versus the Bills and they have another poor performance, one, what are we doing with New York if we're going to fire Salah and we got even worse? And two, man, that would give off a snowball effect within the locker room. Heads might fall, players might get mad at each other, coaches as well too, and ultimately you just create a very toxic scenario within the Jets organization. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on it, and we just have to see how it would play out for the rest of the season. I will say, well, a couple more things. One, heading into this year, I had the Jets making the playoffs, but a huge reason why I didn't have them being fully contenders for the bowl this year was their coaching. With Salah, obviously, him being mediocre, and Nathaniel Hackett, him being very bad as an OC. And look at us right now. Despite the close loss to the Vikings in London, they lost that game, and they're 2-3, looking for a lot of answers for a lot of problems. So, excuse me. And also, the last one I have, Davante Adams. If he's not a Jet by the trade deadline, Joe Douglas, what are you doing? You might as well put in your walking papers then and there, man, because that's the most obvious play to save this Jets offense. I mean, Davante Adams, we already know the chemistry between him and Rodgers back in Green Bay. In an offense where it's a ton of timing with A-Rod and his receivers, them being on the same page, which as of right now, him, Rodgers, and Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, they haven't connected with each other as we've expected, especially Rodgers and Wilson. So you bring in Davante Adams. I don't care what pick you give up for him. Fourth, third, second, you got to bring him in. You got to bring a receiver, again, with the great chemistry he has with Rodgers, one of the best receivers in the entire league when healthy, and having another weapon on the outside, another great route runner, another reliable pass catcher, that just opens up so much for, one, the passing game, and two, the running game as well. Finally getting Breece Hall, who has been very mediocre to start this year off, to get better runs between the tackles and boxes to become even lighter. So ultimately, the pass game gets better, the run game gets better as well. With those two together, the play action passes become more effective, they become more dynamic, and ultimately the offense becomes, again, way more explosive. So that's clearly a no-brainer for this Jets team. It doesn't matter how high the pick is. You have Rodgers, again, man. Like, we don't have much time. The man's nearly 40 years old, and he could possibly retire in in like 2 years from now, a year or two. So you have to do whatever you can to maximize this window and potentially go to the AFC title game, even make the Super Bowl and win it too as well. So if you're a win now team like the Jets, you have to make this move. You have to make that decision. You absolutely have to, or else the season's going to be over. And we all this time we've wasted on getting a quarterback with this team, it was just a bunch of a waste of everybody's time. Simple as that. So yeah, I just want to get that off my chest. That was a long segment. It's just a ton of things to pack, man. I wanted to get that off. Next segment, moving on, we have the New England Patriots. Drake Maye, their first year head coach. They've announced this week that rookie Drake Maye will replace Jacoby Brissett as starting quarterback. And for Maye, he will go up against the Houston Texans this upcoming Sunday. Let me say this. To start the season off, I agreed with the Patriots' decision to have Maye be the backup and make Jacoby Brissett the starter. Even though throughout training camp, there were reports from that and the preseason as well. You look at the tape, look at the reports. Drake Maye was clearly the better option over Jacoby Brissett. But when it came down to his development, in my opinion, I thought it was best for him to remain on the bench and have Jacoby Brissett play majority of the season. Ultimately due to just the sheer lack of talent at receiver, offense in general, and the O-line being completely abysmal. And as we've seen right now, to kick the year off, I was completely right in that aspect. I mean, the Patriots are currently one of the worst offensive teams in the entire league. It's atrocious. From weeks 3 to 5, they've averaged just less than 9 points per game, the worst in the league. The O-line leads in the rate for pressures allowed. Also an unblocked pressure rate. Brissett has been hit 49 times, a crazy amount, in the first 5 games as well. So yeah, I do agree. I did agree with the Patriots' initial approach to have maybe the backup. My issue with this move is, okay, Drake Maye is the starter. All right, cool. But again, man, having him go up against the Texans team, which their defense this year has been balling out the entire year so far, and their pass rush is one of the most dynamic in the entire league. They have arguably the best pass rushing duo right now in Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson, both on the edge. So you're throwing this man into the fire without no bye week, no extra preparation. If you are going to start this man this early into the year, I think this move speaks more on New England not having much of a plan and them just throwing Maye out there for the offense, getting a quick spark as a desperation move. And for me, man, in my thought process, it's not the best move for Maye going forward, man. I understand it's the NFL, and for a rookie quarterback, you're gonna have to play at some point. You're gonna have to play against these top defenses in the entire league, but there is a potential situation where Maye just completely stinks out the gate, and with a whole lot of pressure being put in his face, him not being able to hit receivers in the open field because they can't separate at all. It's a very bad receiving core, and ultimately his progression becomes stagnant and even gets worse, like Bryce Young in Carolina. And in the short-term future, as short as next year, when he has a ton, a lot better options, a much better O-line, the possibility of there being bad habits carrying from this year to next, it's apparent. And for New England, you don't want to have a situation where Drake Maye regresses as a passer, becomes inaccurate. His decision making in the pocket becomes very poor, bailing out of clean pockets, not trusting his own line, not trusting his time in the pocket, his time to throw inside as well. I'm very concerned in that aspect. So, again, we'll have to see. But, man, if this ends really poorly for May in this Patriots team, again, man, just the development of your franchise QB being thrown down the drain, that's a ton of risk. That is a massive risk to take in this decision. So again, we'll just have to see. I like Drake Maye as a prospect out of North Carolina. I do still think he will be a top 2 QB in this draft class, right beside Caleb Williams. I know Jalen Daniels has been balling in Washington, but still, I have that much faith in May to be that guy in this league. But again, man, just the sheer risk of putting him out on the fire this early and having him regress as a prospect, that's a big concern. That is a really big concern. So ultimately, I hope he can work it out with Alex Van Pelt, their OC, and get things moving forward, man. I really do. Dang. I got a dry mouth. I got to sip some water. Excuse me. And my computer froze too. I can't look at my notes on the computer. Or it was just sleeping. Yeah, that was probably the reason. Okay, we're at 22 minutes. Yeah, a little break. Okay. Yo, we are in good shape. We are in very, very good shape. Sweet. I do not want to have these episodes this long, like an hour and 30. Excuse me, especially with me being the only person talking. So I think with these episodes being much shorter, it's a great thing, and it just has the content being a little bit more simplified, but ultimately a better watch for you guys out there, the audience. So quick rambling session, putting that down today, man. Yo, we are having a lot of fun. We are having a lot of fun so far, man. All right, last segment. Let's get into it. Okay, so the main segment for this episode, again, man, early regular season risers and fallers. Yeah, I pronounced that correctly. I am for sure smart. Okay. Simple as that. Just, as I said before at the beginning, looking at teams so far who have risen their status and those who have fallen and have underperformed. So, yeah, that being out the way, let's get into it. And for one of my risers, come on, man, we got to talk about the Washington Commanders. Man, I had this Commanders team winning 3 or 4 games this year. Okay, coming into the year, if you had Washington winning 5, 6 at most, okay, man, I can understand that. Being a scrappy team, competing week in, week out under Dan Quinn. Okay, I can understand that word. But they're currently 4-1, leading the NFC East. Jalen Daniels has been balling out of his mind. Great wins against the Bengals on the road on Monday Night Football, against the Browns last week, dominating them at home. Yo, this Commanders team has been so exciting to watch, and they have proven me and a lot of people so wrong. So wrong, man. The offense has been clicking. Daniels has been phenomenal as a rookie, shown a lot of great things as a passer. The running game has been effective. Brian Robinson has emerged as one of the better backs in the entire league. O-line's been super solid. The defense, a couple standouts like Frankie Louvu in the linebacking core, but ultimately that's my biggest concern with this team moving forward, especially when it comes to them being a real contender in this league this year. But still, man, for them to be in this position, for them to have a very good chance at winning the NFC East, that just speaks volumes on their development. And I can't praise Dan Quinn enough for how this team's fought, man, and Cliff Kingsbury too, their OC. I wasn't a big believer in Cliff at all. I thought this offense would be very mediocre, but look at them now. It's so dynamic. It's so fun. Again, with Daniels, he has been one of the best QBs in the entire league. He has shown so many great things as a passer, especially in the pocket too. The deep ball is translated from college, and as well as him attacking the middle of the field, which we didn't see that much at LSU. It has been such a great thing to watch every single week, and good for the Commanders fans too. Good for the DC fans because obviously in the Dan Snyder era, there was a lot of doom and gloom, a lot of crap seasons, a lot of disbelief, a lot of times where, man, there is no future. But obviously he's gone, new ownership there, new head coach, a new era, a potential franchise QB. Man, like, they have a direction. They have a true future, and it's so great to seeing a sleeping giant like Washington, and we've known in their past history they're a dominant force in the 80s and 90s, winning multiple Super Bowls during that time. But obviously, in the past 2 decades, that's not been the case at all. They've been one of the worst franchises in the entire league. And just now seeing this whole new direction where they have a lot of hope. They have something to believe in. They have a coach bringing in this culture where you have players fighting their ass off every night. They're competing for this team and for these fans. It's just great to see, and I just love it seeing stuff like this in Washington and more recently in Detroit, where these franchises take off the label of being dumpster fires and actually form a future, actually form some promise. So, man, I'm rooting for it 100% for sure, 1,000% actually. So it's gonna be a ton of fun seeing how this Washington team perform throughout the rest of the year. Again, do I see them being serious Super Bowl contenders? No, but still, man, with them being this good, the offense being as dynamic as it is right now, I believe they're going to win the NFC East, and they're going to make the playoffs for sure. And they're going to have a lot of things to build off of heading into next year, especially with Jay Daniels playing as good as he's been playing right now to start the year off. So salute to them, man. Next team keeping it in the NFC, I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings. 5-0, them alongside the Chiefs being the two only undefeated teams in the year. The defense has been phenomenal under Brian Flores. The offense, man, Kevin O'Connell, take a bow. I think Kevin O'Connell, he's my pick to win Coach of the Year this season for sure. For how he's revived Sam Darnold's career and making him as great of a QB as he's been, eliminating his mistakes, having this offense being as dynamic with the weapons they already have. It's been very exciting to watch. And, obviously, there's still a potential factor in Sam Darnold turning back into a pumpkin, his previous form, which we did see a lot of that in the London game versus New York this past week. He made a lot of mistakes, which if those passes turned into picks, then that game would have been a whole lot different. He would have lost that game. But still, if his play early in the year, he keeps up. If he keeps performing like this, if the defense keeps humming like they have been, the pass rush is as effective as it has to start the year off. Still, Jettas being healthy. I know Aaron Jones is injured right now, but when he comes back, him being as effective as he is outside the backfield, when Hawkinson comes back, bringing in another safety blanket in this offense, the Vikings can make a deep run. They can really make a deep run. They have the weapons on both sides of the ball. They have arguably the best coaching staff in the entire league. They can make some noise for sure. So, hey man, salute to this Minnesota team, and I really think they can do this. I really think that they can win the NFC North. When it comes to getting the first seed, if Detroit can make something about that, then we'll have to see. San Fran, if they can bounce back, we'll have to see that too as well. But I think they're in very good shape. I really do. I truly do for sure. Last rising team in this category. Let's go to the AFC. I have the Denver Broncos. And for Denver, I had them being, a 3-4 win team to start the year. I didn't believe in the offense at all. I still have my questions, but I didn't believe in the offense and I didn't believe in the defense. I thought they were locking in town on all three phases on that side of the ball too. But to kick the year off on a 3-game winning streak, they're in very good shape in the AFC. The defense, man, has been phenomenal. One of the most elite units in the entire league. Salute to their DC, Vance Joseph, for having a unit as great as they've been, being very blitz heavy, having the third most sacks in the entire league by far. The D-line has been great. Salute to Jonathan Cooper, Zach Allen. Those have been two standouts on their line. And the secondary, Pat Surtain has been the best corner in the entire league by far. Riley Moss has been great too as their second best corner. Jaquan McMillan has been great as well. They arguably have the best corner group in the entire league. And as of right now in the AFC, where there are a lot of teams who we thought were going to be great and they're not playing their best ball, looking very mediocre, the Broncos have a real chance to make the playoffs, be one of those sneaky wildcard teams. If Bo Nix, which he has been playing a lot better in recent weeks, if he can limit turnover-worthy plays, play clean football as their starting quarterback, if the run game can get going with Javonte Williams, which they did get it going versus the Raiders last week at home, they have a real shot. They really do. And for Sean Payton and this Broncos team, they've proven me wrong. They've proven me wrong. And for now, I know it's early, but I'll admit I was wrong about this Broncos team for sure. All right, moving on to our falling teams so far. I had to go with Seattle. After starting 3-0, which that start was kind of shaky, they've fallen off a lot, and that's largely due to the amount of injuries they've had to overcome on the defensive side of the ball. A lot of big names, Reek Woolen, Uchenna Nwosu, who they currently placed him on IR, Byron Murphy the second, all have injuries, and that's not even the whole list. Boya Mafe, one of their best pass rushers, he missed a couple games this season. Derek Hall, he's had a nagging foot injury. Just that many key players being out, man, it's really hurt this Seattle defense a lot. And we've seen that with their run game. They've been very poor. The tackling has not been great as well. We saw that versus the Lions especially. A lot of missed tackles in the open field. And then because of that, that was why the Lions were on fire the whole game, and Jared Goff ultimately had no incomplete passes the entire game as well. And looking at the O line, although Geno has been playing elite football, he's been probably a top five quarterback this year, man, to start off. He's been having to play so much hero ball because of the O line being as poor as it is. And heading into this year, that was one of this team's biggest concerns, preventing them from being a true contender in this league. The O line again, man, with the running game too, it hasn't been able to take off, and we know how explosive it can be with having guys, a guy like Kenneth Walker in that backfield. And so for Seattle right now, they have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. We know this already, and we have seen a potential with this team under Mike McDonald as their first-year head coach, especially defensively. But again, man, the amount of injuries piling up on defense, and with their O-line being as bad as it is, the offense stalling, so many drives, which we saw that versus the Giants, and that's why they ultimately lost that game. They were hitting Geno all four quarters, man. They were going crazy, especially with Dexter Lawrence on that D line. Again, they have a lot of talent, and I do think they still have a good chance of winning the division. Again, largely due to other competitors having a lot of injury concerns, like the Niners and the Rams. But when it comes to them being a serious contender, I have to pause on that. We really have to see when this team can be fully healthy, whether or not they can reach their full potential. So I really want to see them moving forward. Next team, we're going to the Buffalo Bills, and I'm going to largely talk about their offense. And with what we've seen, especially last week against the Texans, when they play defenses with secondaries that are very solid, their receiving core is non-existent, completely non-existent. And because of that, we saw a lot of bad plays from Josh Allen versus the Texans this past week. Ultimately, he went 9 of 30 in that game. Had a very nasty head injury too as well towards the end. His helmet bounced off the turf when he got hit on the ground or towards the ground. And talking about this receiving core, again, that was the biggest concern for this team heading to the year, and ultimately that concern has been proven right, because without Stephon Diggs, opposing defenses, they don't respect this unit. They really don't, and that's largely due to them not having a proven separator. Khalil Shakir has been the closest one to that. He's had a great year so far, a very good year, but one, he's been injured recently. He didn't play last week against Houston, and with him being out the picture, who else do they have? Like Matt Collins, I don't rate him being a top receiver on the outside. Keon Coleman, he hasn't been fully utilized within this offense. Even Dalton Kincaid has had a very mediocre start to the season. So for this offense, especially when it's a team that hasn't relied on the run game at all, they don't look to run the ball a lot during these games. It just puts their offense in a total hole. And with what we're seeing right now, Josh Allen is having to put the cape on too many times, man. And I get Josh Allen is still Josh Allen. He's still a top 2 quarterback in the league on his day. But again, man, in the modern NFL, you need weapons that can get open on the outside. And with the Bills, they clearly do not have that. And that's why we're seeing their offense being mediocre as it is right now. And that's why I don't have them being a true contender in the AFC this year. Do I still think they have a very good chance of winning their division, largely due to the rest of the teams being very mediocre. Yeah, for sure. But still, when it comes to them potentially taking out the Chiefs or even lesser teams like the Ravens or the Texans, no, I don't see that being a possibility. So I have the Bills after their quick start being in that fathers list for sure. Going into the last team on this list, we're going back to the NFC, and I have the 49ers on here. And I want to start off with their offense, man. Without Christian McCaffrey, which we don't know when he'll come back this year, I really believe that he might even play a single game just with his Achilles injury, having tendonitis on both legs. With him being as old as he is at running back and him having to carry this load with this Niners unit, that's a bad mix. Excuse me. So even if he comes back, I don't expect him to be 100% at all, for sure. And with this Niners team, again without McCaffrey, it's a very mediocre unit. They're horrible in the red zone against the Cardinals in their choke last week. Lost that game at home. They were 1 for 6 in the red zone. They converted 9 out of 9 red zone attempts versus the Cardinals in their 2 games last year. And that's largely due to them having to put the ball in Purdy's hands, which for Brock Purdy, other than that game versus Arizona last week, he's had a solid year to kick off. But again, man, you're having to put the ball in Purdy's hands. Although Jordan Mason's had a good year, he's not Chris McCaffrey. And with this receiving unit, with Ayuk still trying to, get in shape and be equipped in his offense after his contract dispute in the offseason, not being able to play in like training camp. We already know Dibo Samuel is not separated at all in his offense. It's making them look very vulnerable and making them look very human. And defensively, they've taken a huge step backwards. Obviously, Drake Greenlaw, his Achilles tear, he's a big miss. Halufanga, he's currently out, gonna be out for an extended period of time. That hurts them as well. Javon Hargrave, he's out for the rest of the year. Their pass rush has been very poor to start this year off. They can't get off the field. They allow conversions on third down again. It's been a struggle. It's been a very big struggle, man. And for this Niners team, which you've expected them to be a contender this season, and with my thoughts on that team, I thought this was their last chance to win a title this year. With all the stuff going on, it's a huge concern, man. It is a very huge concern. Again, do I expect them to make the playoffs? Yes, due to the amount of high-end talent that they have, as well, too. I think that they'll be able to turn that ship and stay afloat. But when it comes to them being amongst those top teams in the NFC with Detroit and, strangely enough, with Houston as well, I just don't see it as of right now. And do I think that can change for the rest of the year? I'm not so sure. Really. So we'll have to see how that plays out moving forward, man. Shoot. And, man, yeah, all the teams I have. So that's the end of that. If you guys are still here, make sure to drop a like on this video and leave a comment. I want to hear y'all thoughts down below. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Follow us on both our IG and TikTok platforms, both with the handle @LumsFromTheBates. And yeah, man, that's it for me. Shoot, hopefully I'll see you guys next week. And take care, man. Later. I'm leaving this in, man. I got to scoot to fade to black.